Today we're going to be talking about the many functions, in fact the many hats that GCs wear. Priti, you've been doing what you do for a long time. I think you've been GC for 11 years. How many hats, how many functions do you wear day to day in your role for the bank?
That's very interesting. It's several hats, because you could be dragged into a situation at work which is maybe from your HR side, from the business side, from the risk, from compliance. And every time you're putting your hat on, but you always have to be aware of what hat you're actually putting on, to be honest. The needle keeps moving, but where your role is when you're putting on that hat needs to be very, very clear. So every time I'm giving advice to any of my businesses, I've always got my legal hat on. In effect, I'm always gauging where the legal risk lies. But at the same time, I realize that all legal decisions are happening within an operational context. So I have to simplify it when I'm talking to various business groups so that they don't see this as a GC trying to put across what the law is, but a GC translating what works in an operational context and making it simpler for businesses.
Looking forward, projecting ahead, what three potential changes to your job function do you foresee coming onto your plate in the ever-consuming desire to provide greater service, greater value to the bank? So you've talked about the hats that you have to wear now. What can you see coming down the line?
I see GCs becoming more of risk managers, becoming more of compliance experts. For a long time, GCs have always been thought as the guys who facilitated a deal. They advised and they policed. But a lot of my role nowadays is to actually educate people around regulatory issues, around anti-bribery, corruption, antitrust, competition. And I'm seeing more and more as regulation evolves and the growth becomes larger, GCs will have to put on the hats of being a risk manager and a compliance expert, in addition to being just a plain facilitator of deals or a lawyer. And that again calls for more training, more understanding, and being more adaptive to change. GCs are going to go through a period of evolution and I think even revolution, because legal technology is fast approaching and it's becoming so complex in terms of alternate service providers who are hungry for that business and who are at your doorsteps and who could be a potential replacement for you in some scenarios. So GCs have to make a constant effort to stay relevant, to learn, unlearn, relearn. And that is the mindset that a GC will have to have, that change is approaching, not 5 years down the line, but it's almost on your doorstep.
Keeps things interesting.
Very interesting.
Priti, it's always interesting to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.